Hi. Okay, in this clip we're going to look at the forces of demand. And we start with the law of demand. And the law of demand states that as the price of a good rises, the demand for that, the quantity demanded will fall. And conversely, as the price falls for a good, the demand that the public is willing to buy will rise. So we'll start by looking at an individual situation whereby, say, a chocolate bar company will be trying to determine just what kind of demand they can expect to get from the public at any given price. And companies will do this through all their analysis of sales data, or looking at their past performance, or they'll go out and do surveys of the public, and they'll be able to determine at what kind of prices people are prepared to pay. What we come up with in this respect is we come up with a demand schedule. And here's an example of one where they've gone out and surveyed the public, and they'll be able to say, if we sold this product, this chocolate bar, at 30 pence, how many chocolate bars can we realistically expect to sell per day? And they'd say, well, the data says that they'd be able to sell 1.5 million. And if they charge more, the demand would fall, and as the law of demand states, as the price rises here, we can see that the demand falls. That is a demand schedule. This is a table setting out both price and quantity demanded at the various things, the various points. What we now do is we transfer this schedule onto a diagram. So quantity is always the lower horizontal x-axis, so we'll put quantity demanded down there, and 250 is the lowest price, the lowest quantity, so we'll put it closest to 0 at 250. Then we go up to 500,000, 750,000, 1 million, 1.25 million, and 1.5 million, and so on. That takes the quantity from this schedule off. And likewise, price on the vertical y-axis, we'd start the lowest price down by closest to 0, 30 pence, 40 pence, 50 pence, 60 pence, 70 pence, 80 pence, and so on. So we can see how we've just transferred what is just a block of data that the company's being able to tabulate, and moved it on to a diagram. And we can see here at the conjunction at 80 pence, well, what's our demand at 80 pence? On this scale, we look along here, and 250, and at 70 pence, we can expect to sell 500, and at 60 pence, 750, 50 pence, a million, 40 pence, 1.25 million, 30 pence, we'd sell 1.5 million, and what we do is just join up all the dots, and we come down with what we call a demand curve. The demand curve is just joining up all the dots. So if we sold it at 79 pence instead of 80 pence, we can, at 80 pence would be 250,000. At 79, we'd probably sell 255,000. So this is just a series of just hundreds of dots all put together to come up with one demand curve. And yes, note that it is a straight line, not a curve, but that's just a little idiosyncrasy of economics. We call these things curves, even though it's a straight line. So what we can see is that if the company comes out and begins to market the product at 50 pence, and they'd sell 1 million, if they rose the price to 60 million, they'd sell less. This would be what's called, at 60 pence, they would sell less. And that's called a movement along the demand curve. Just a change in price upwards leads to a decline in sales. That is a movement, very simple, ceteris paribus. It means nothing else occurring. A change in price will lead to this kind of contraction in demand. That's a movement. But the far more important aspect is to determine how can we get consumers to buy more of this product at the same price, and this, or less, in the case may be. And now we get on to the slightly thornier issue of a shift in the demand curve. This is the way a static demand curve, what we had here, with its movements. But how about the chocolate bar company would love to be able to sell 1.25 million chocolate bars at 50 pence, not the 1 million that it had been said by its marketing and research. And it wants to see the demand curve shift out there. So here you can see if they put the price at 50, this new demand curve would get them the 1.25 million. Or conversely, they could raise the price to 60 pence and still get their 1 million sales. Either way, increase the price and you get more profit. Here you're selling it more at the same price, get more profit. They want to achieve this, what we call a shift in the demand curve outwards. How does this shift occur? Well, what we have looked at in economics is that there is, I think, 9 different factors that the economic student must be able to refer to when discussing the factors that cause a shift in the curve. The first one is incomes. As our incomes rise, we will be prepared to pay a higher price for the same amount of goods. So the income is one of the most important factors to look at when trying to determine how we can expect to see the demand curve shift. Second is substitute goods. If there are no substitutes for a certain product, the producer can raise the price and the consuming public's got no other alternative but to continue buying it. This way we see that there are plenty of substitutes for chocolate bars, so if Mars Corporation raises its chocolate bar price from 50 to 60 pence, we can quickly go buy Kit Kats or Lion Bars or whatever, and as a result they are quite constricted. That's the ability to substitute. A third factor is a complement good. That's something that goes with something else, and this drives demand out because a substitute, this complement good, also known as joint demand, means that as the demand for one product goes out, it drags with it the demand of another. A classic example of this would be ice cream cones, for instance. As the demand for ice cream rises, the demand for cones will be driven up higher. Even though people don't go out specifically looking to buy cones, the cone is so related to the sales of ice cream that it drags it up. The fourth key factor here is availability of credit. We can see that demand for houses rose, for instance, in this country for many years over the past decade or so, and that was because credit was made much more available to the consumers. It became either more available or cheaper, whatever the two, and as we are able to borrow money more cheaply, we will go and expand our demand accordingly. 5, legislation. If the government determines that a product is a particularly good benefit for society, what we call a merit good, they will implement policies to encourage the consumption of a good through subsidies or so on, or if it's considered to be a negative product like tobacco or something, they will raise taxes on that or do advertising campaigns, whatever, to reduce the consumption. So legislation is a key factor driving that. 6, marketing, effective marketing. I mean, hey, advertising works, otherwise they wouldn't be doing it. Marketing and advertising is something to increase demand, get us to pay more, to buy more of a product at its same price or a higher price, as the case may be. From that, 7, we go on to just trends, what we call trends or fashion. These are just events that occur in society when suddenly the consuming public deems a product much more desirable. They go out and buy it for whatever the reason might be. Another key factor to look at here is population and demographics. As the population grows, its propensity to consume will rise, or as the aging population will shift our demand patterns for different products. And finally, I think I'd put here 9 is, well, let's just call it nature or climate. We see in a very cold winter the demand for warm coats will rise. And these are the factors that cause that demand curve to shift in or shift out. Anytime that you're given a question asking you about why did price change, if we look at why did oil prices rise so much so between 2004 and 2007, the temptation is just to come to some conclusion, oh, this happened. No, 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 don't do that. A trained economist immediately thinks, Oil prices rose. What has to be done to supply or demand? In this case, it was demand. Why? Well, incomes rose. Correct. That drove us to consume more energy. We can see that there was no substitutes for oil as demand for energy and transportation rose. There was nothing else. We had to buy more oil. We could look to population changes as India and China became much more economically active. The individuals there, demand rose for that. And we can see trends towards, I don't know, cheaper flights. But this is the menu from which you select from to determine what are the forces causing the demand to change. I hope that's helpful. Thanks.